Ambry Thomas, is he on the roster bubble?
Hell yeah. I think Kyle Shanahan essentially said it. Someone said, "What do you want to see from Ambry?" He said, "I want to see him compete for a roster spot," which is funny because he's been hurt. Hard to compete when you're getting back from an injury. He really had a bad offseason. And I don't know how much stock you put in camp and practices, but I mean, he must have given up like an 85% completion percentage. It was outrageous. It was like 24, like 20 catches on 25, so something like that. So he like didn't show up for practice, whether that matters or not. He's just not good enough to not show up for practice. And then he got hurt. And then you have guys like Diamador Lenore, who has improved. Sam Womack, who looks good inside and outside. Kadar Holman, who seems to actually have had a much better offseason than Ambry Thomas. What he has going for him is they spent a third-round pick on him. But I think he needs to show something to justify keeping him because the team is too good to keep a guy just because they spent a third-round pick on him.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. But now the question becomes, and this goes back to the Sermon one as well, are they really willing to get rid of 2 third-round picks if they are, in fact, not good enough to make this team? I don't know if they are. Like, that's a tough pill to swallow. They traded up to get Sermon, remember? It's not like they just picked him. They traded up to get Sermon. Then they took Ambry Thomas with the second pick in that third round. I don't know if this team's willing to do it. Now, if they are, that to me shows growth from Kyle Shanahan. A lot of growth.
Because if you don't acknowledge a mistake when it's a mistake and you are in denial, it gets worse.
Yep.
It gets worse because you're keeping this guy over someone that would actually help you more. And when it's finally time for this person to come in the game and contribute, he can't. And you're like, well, what was I thinking? Was I holding on to hope and faith or whatever? So it's up for Ambry could show something, but I don't think he's going to play in this game. He's been hurt. I don't know what he could do to compete. Yeah, I don't know. What's crazy is he actually seemed to rise to the occasion in some very pressurized moments down the stretch last year, but he did not take the next step this offseason the way most second-year or most good second-year players do. So sorry.
Yeah, he didn't. And you know what? I'm a big Ambry Thomas guy, or I was. I defended him a lot last year because when I would actually watch him play, I thought 95% of the time he actually did a great job. It was just the 1 or 2 plays a game that people saw, they ran with that. And I thought it was a bit overblown how bad he was last year. I really do believe that. But something just didn't click this offseason. And I know I do follow him on Twitter, and I'm not saying this is it for sure, but he went on a whole, like, it seems like spiritual adventure this offseason and spent time there doing that versus possibly working on his game. And maybe that's showing through at this point. I don't know, but that's kind of my read on the situation. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's just my personal thought. So
Marie says, I think Hasty and Sermon is getting cut because of Debo and Lance. Don't be so sure about Hasty. I mean, Hasty's not only been on this team, I think 2 or 3 years, but he's had a role. He's the third down back. People kind of count him out like Ross Dwelly, but I get the feeling that Hasty and Ross Dwelly are kind of embedded on this team. I could be wrong. But that's how I feel.
Hasty, really interesting. Okay.
Hasty. I don't know.
You're
I don't
not
know
the
how
only one to say that, by the way.
I mean, Elijah Mitchell, is he coming back week 1? Like, I don't know what's up with his health. I haven't seen him on the field in a while. So we'll see. They could get tricky.
I want to clarify my stance on this too, on the Ambry Thomas thing. Again, this is a complete assumption, but if that is what he did and he chose that over football, I don't look at that as a bad thing. Like, that's a life choice, and that's something that he may have for the rest of his life. So I actually applaud it. I'm not down talking it because I understand it, right? So I just wanted to clarify my stance on that.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. Marco Garcia says, do you think Trey will lose confidence in his short passes? I don't know. Maybe. But he's a work in progress, and he just needs a good coach who's positive and reminds him that he's very gifted and he can do this. And we're going to talk about Trey in a minute, but what I want to underscore with Jesse is that Trey can't, not only can Trey do it right, he does it right most of the time.
Right.
That's why I'm pointing this out. He does it right most of the time. And if that's the case, then he can do it right all the time. That's all I'm saying. And we're going to talk about it, about what exactly I think he's inconsistent with mechanically. It's one thing. And I think it
Yeah.
leads to a lot of issues. But he does it right most of the time, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, totally fair.
Scott says, Grant, who is CB1 going into the year? We don't have a true number one cornerback on this team, but who are you putting on the opposite number one wide receiver? Mosley! Look, I know Trevarius Ward got the bag, and he's done it before, but based on this offseason, Mosley is in the zone. And a lot of football is how good a shape you're in right now. And I know Trevarius Ward was in shape last year, but he missed most of the offseason with a hamstring injury. Mosley also hurt his hamstring, came back, still dominant. Hot take is that Mosley is their best corner. That's my hot take.
And he may be. I think it's super close with those two.
It is super close.
I think the 49ers aren't going to probably allow him to switch sides, and I think that Mosley's probably going to end up on the number 2 more often than not.
Evan Osborne says, I'm a skeptic of Lance taking us on a deep run this year, but is this possibly the deepest team in football? With less holes than the team Jimmy brought to Super Bowl and NFC Championship, depth wins. Hard to say they're the deepest team when they got $27 million doing nothing. Doing nothing. I can't see. I mean, where's the depth at safety? Where's the depth on the offensive line? They have some depth at linebacker, D-line, for sure. Yes, absolutely. But I don't know. Not everywhere. Evan?
Listen, I think this is one of the better teams in football. I've been saying it for a while, but that offensive line scares the hell out of me. And I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. I wish we had the old problems back. And by that, I mean, I wish we were worried about the interior offensive line, knowing that we had bookend tackles that we could pretty much trust. Right now, with McGlinchey out, this is a problem that none of us foresaw. I mean, potentially, right? He had an injury, whatever, but once he came back healthy, we were hoping that it was good to go. Now they might have an offensive line that from left guard to right tackle has 7 combined starts in this league. Oh. That's what you want, protecting your franchise quarterback, and you expect Trey to go win a Super Bowl with that. I would love to see Jimmy behind that offensive line. Absolutely love it.
I agree. And Kyle and the Niners keep talking about how they're going to carry Trey because the team is so loaded. What about the offensive line?
Right.
David DeFore says Niners investing endless valuable resources in D-line while ignoring O-line equals dude spending half a check at Whole Foods while pounding Diet Cokes. Thank you very much, David. That's a perfect metaphor. I agree. It's like, and again, Drake Jackson, he looks really good. Drake Jackson looks really good, but another one? Come on. And I know you went, the crazy thing is they took O-line in round 2 last year. They just took the wrong one. They should have taken Creed Humphrey. They took Aaron Banks. Oh, well. Jacob Mayfield says...
You went full DJ Khaled. Another one.
People need to stop acting like Jimmy did so much for this team. He got carried, period. Also let Lance play. Practice is practice. Yeah, we're acting like Jimmy. Some people try to romanticize Jimmy like he was this top 10 quarterback at some point. He never was. Ever. So what are you holding on to? He's the most... I think his legacy is that he was the most mediocre quarterback ever. Of all time. The most. So that's something.